So tonight we're going to be covering creating your team, establishing priorities and timelines, and delegating responsibilities, and then running an effective meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I can't see what you're seeing, but
Okay, once you click to the next slide.
Mhm.
Okay, so creating your team. The purpose of a team is to bring together people with different skills and ideas to work on an objective or solve a problem together. And it's also to foster growth and to thrive. In who do you want to work with? Um, do you have a fellow member that you've worked on a project before, you really get along well? You know, choose people that you know, but also consider um, new members who are just coming into Altrusa and help them feel comfortable and to learn the ropes. And hopefully they will continue and become a chair or leader in the future. Mentor them. And a mentor walks alongside us and shows us what we can do, not telling us what we're supposed to do. And what voices do we want at the table? We want idea people, people who are creative, and then we want the doers, people who can see the plan and help put it into play. Leadership is not about control, but about unleashing the power of teamwork. Get to know your team members. What is their preferred form of communication? Is it texting? The younger people tend to text more than they do check their email, or do they want a voice phone call? We've got members of different ages, so there's different preferences of communication. Older individuals may not have email any longer, while young people don't check their email. So get to know their style and what works best for them. Do they do virtual meetings like this, or do they prefer in-person meetings? Um, are they still working, or are they retired? What is their lifestyle that you can kind of accommodate the workload and the meeting schedule to? And how can they contribute? Maybe they really get on board and they can do a lot, and maybe it's just one small thing. All things matter, and all things um, help to the greater cause. Create connections through your team building activities. Beginning of your meeting, take a few minutes to go around the room and ask people what they're grateful for. What fun thing have they done lately? Sharing maybe a personal challenge that they are working on, or sharing an accomplishment that they just completed. And play a game that helps people get to know each other on a more casual basis. I don't know if you've ever played Two Truths and a Lie. Um, I saw a really interesting example of it. Martha Stewart was playing this with some people on a panel. And one of the things that she said was that she had been struck by lightning 3 times. So everybody thought that was the lie, and actually it was the truth. And she explained how. And so it's interesting to just get to know people kind of on a more personal level. When we work on a trusting team, we feel safe to admit our mistakes and to be honest about our shortcomings and ask for help when we need it. Create a safe, inviting environment so team members feel safe and brainstorm and share ideas. There's no bad ideas. It's just simply putting it out there and working with it, and maybe it gets abbreviated, maybe it gets reworked in a different way, but all ideas are good ideas. And it's always good if you're on a fundraising project or a new event, it's always good to change up something every year to make it exciting all the time. So it's not just the same thing every time. The role of the leader is not to come up with all the great ideas. The role of the leader is to create an environment in which great ideas can happen. And we need to motivate our members. Keep your members motivated, ensure that goals are achievable so that there's success. Explain the benefits that your committee provides to the club. Invite members to give regular progress reports. Create opportunities for fellowship and networking. Give assignments that use each member's expertise. Ask each member for their ideas and be open to acting on them. Respect team members as individuals with unique contributions to make. Allow team members to take risks and maybe embrace failure as a learning opportunity. Show appreciation for your team's successes. And there's nothing wrong with trying something different. I know Pendleton this last year, they changed the date of one of their big events. And it wasn't as successful as it had been before. But you learn by doing, and no harm in trying. So we're going to have a little session where we're going to go around the room with everybody. And what experiences have you had in planning something, or what makes a positive experience for you and your success? Or have you had any failures and have you learned from those? And I will tell you, from my time in Altrusa and becoming on the leadership team, I work by myself. I'm self-employed. I don't really lead people, and so it was great for me to join a group. But one of the things was doing presentations like this. I was not comfortable being in the limelight, and it has given me the opportunity to break out of that comfort zone and try something new and learn from my experiences. Anybody else?
I have a story from yesterday. Last year, I was chairman of the service to the community committee. And this year, we have a member who has only been an Altruisan for maybe 2 years. She was on the committee last year. And then this year, she's chairman. And we told her we would give her all the support she needed. And so yesterday, we made a grant, an award to a local group. And I said, would you like me to attach the minutes to the requisition? And thinking that she just, needed some help. She said, no. She said, give me a copy of the minutes and I can do it. I will do it. And so I thought this was so good that she felt that we had prepared her well enough to take it and finish the whole procedure.
How great.
Yeah.
I think when we join Altrusa, it automatically makes us leaders because we're working together, but we're also asking our community to invest in what we do. And that's a leadership role.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I was going to say
Nancy?
that when I joined Altrusa in 1980, I was very young and I was in charge of a committee And all the people on my committee worked outside the home. At the time, I did not. And I tended to do it all. And one of my favorite people came to me and said, Nancy, you have to let us make the decision whether we can help or not. And it was a great learning lesson. And I just thought I was doing them a favor by not bothering them with little mundane things, but it was an educational thing for me. And it proved, I mean, sometimes we do tend to make decisions for other people when we really shouldn't.
I think that's been my hardest part with Altrusa, is I come from a 40-year military background with the Air Force, and I'm so used to being the one that just make the decision and just telling people to do stuff. And I kind of had to slow my roll when I got in Altrusa, because I would just make a decision or tell try to tell somebody to do something, and I had to stop myself.
It's funny.
I also think that's a great example of kind of learning as we go and adapting to what we're doing, because even coming in as president, and Tammy, you are, as you got elected president, were essentially a brand new Altrusan to begin with, but you had leadership experience in other areas. And so, that helps you succeed this year as a club president and a new Altrusan. But also we have people who are toying with being a club board member or maybe running for an office, and they may not have as much experience. And I know for myself and for some of the other people that were either before or after me when I served as president a number of years ago, I was reassured by the other past presidents, including Mary Alice and others, in our club, that we've got you. Don't worry, step up and do this. We will be there to back you up. And there were plenty of times back then and to this day where I call people who were past presidents, or in this instance as governor, who are past governors, to say, what do I do about this? What's your advice on that? And we don't have to do it all. And we are stronger when we reach out and are supported by other people, and they can share their wisdom with us. And it helps us grow as well as do a better job. And I think that's one of those things for any of you that might be on this session that are considering running for office. Altrusa is a very safe place to develop your personal leadership skills. There's a lot of backup. Clubs function well usually, and a lot of people will jump in and help you if you are open to asking for that support.
Yes.
And I would just to dovetail onto what Debbie is saying, that was me as a brand new Altrusan who had been in the club no less than a year when I was going to be the incoming president. A scary kind of a thing, but I'm from the 911 world, so you jump in and you take care and you do what you need to do. But because of Altrusa and the love and support that they have, when I showed up at the conference, first conference I'd ever gone to, I'm a first timer, an incoming president, and as circumstances had it, I was the only member of my club at the time that went to conference. So there's one of the Pendleton members, Pat, who's not with us today on this call. She was in charge of registration, and I walk up to the registration table and she asked me my name, and then she says, I've been looking for you. And I'd never seen this woman in my life. I said, really? What, why? And she said, you're an incoming president and it's the first time you've ever been here and you're the only person from your club. You just come with me and you'll be part of the Pendleton group for this conference. And Pendleton and I have had great friendships ever since, as well as with other Altrusans from all over the world. But it's true. If you are newer, if your club needs you to step into a leadership role and you're terrified, that's normal. But let the rest of the Altrusa family help you, because it really can be done. And I'm still here 15 years after that experience.
Are you still here? But Tammy happens to be running for a district board position at our district conference coming up. So leadership opportunities continue to grow.
This is Kimberly. Leadership has a lot to do with trust. And a recent quote, I hope I can get it right. It was from Simon Sinek, I believe it was. And it said, "You don't build trust by asking for help, you build it by accepting it." And I think a lot of times we try to just do it all. Or we just think, oh, I'll just get this done. I think someone just mentioned that no, we need to accept help from other people. And reiterating what Debbie said is Altrusa is the safest environment to get out of your comfort zone and build your personal leadership skills. But a lot of that has to do with trust. You need to empower people to take on a project and let them do it. They may not do it how you want to, or way you thought it would be, but as long as the end product is there, that's the main goal. And they've put themselves and their personal touch on putting that particular task together, and need to let them blossom and figure that out and be a mentor to them to help. Yes.
Great comments. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Bettina. She's going to talk about priorities and timelines.
Right, thank you. I'll share the screen again. And I won't see you, so I'll just talk at my screen. Let me see, does that share? There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the scary parts, of any leadership year is sometimes, can I get it all done? Can I get it all done? And so these are just a few tips about how do we make our timelines, how do we set priorities, and some of the tools so we restructure so we're not as overwhelmed by potentially what, all the things we need to get done. And this is a matrix, and you'll be able to get that, that allows us to prioritize what's in the top part. The number 1 and 2 is really the important parts, a decision by importance. So what's above is important, what's below is not so important. And then on the left is urgent, on the right is not urgent. So if you look at these, if something is urgent and important, you would do it right away. So top, the number 1. If it's important, it's not urgent, then you plan to do it. That's the quadrant I like to stay in. These things are important, they need to be done, but if I schedule them, then they're not going to be urgent eventually. So I like to live in quadrant 2, even if, life doesn't let me live in quadrant 2. Then in quadrant 3 is things that are not so important, but they're urgent. So that could be that something has to be done by a deadline. Maintenance work has to be completed, but you can delegate those. So you can delegate them to someone else, and you want them done right away. They would be, for example, my maintenance manager at work. If there is ice, I will ask him to de-ice the parking lot. But I don't need to do it myself. And then number 4, which is the non-urgent and non-important, and it says here dump or postpone. These are sort of our fillers. This could be you're scrolling on your cell phone and time goes away. It's not important, it's not urgent, and could be trivial things. Sometimes you need those for self-care. It's nice to just have a breather. But if you have priorities, you would want to be in the important upper part of this. So when you start a role, you often want to map out the entire year. You will know what events are coming up. You might have meeting schedules, when our committees meeting, when our boards meeting, when our club meetings are happening. And then there also might be some specific tasks or deadlines for events that your club puts on. And then you want to prioritize, and that's where that matrix come in, organizing your tasks by priority, by deadlines, by something that can be delegated or something that you have to be doing yourself. And then the key thing is to be realistic. What can be achieved within the deadlines? We all know, or I know, I always plan so many things for my day, and then there's quite a few that just have to be swapped forward to the next day because I tried to achieve too much and there was disruptions during the day. So be realistic too, because your team has their own lives. Don't overburden yourself and your team. So be realistic with the deadlines. I think we tend to have a tendency to be more hopeful in getting everything done than to give ourselves enough time and let life play out. So again, we did a workshop in the fall, and this matrix that we looked at earlier is really organizing your tasks into those 4 quadrants of the important, not so important, urgent, and not urgent. And then one of the things, if you look at the important and urgent, that's where you have to make the decisions and where you have to focus your attention. So this matrix works well for critical thinkers and people that are very logical, but it also does not necessarily take into account that you get disrupted. Another part of planning is to breaking bigger projects down and have smaller sizes. People always say, a big elephant can be eaten in tiny bite sizes. So if something looks really big, can you break it down to make it attainable? I hope you don't hear my dog. He's wanted to come in. And the other part of working together is making your goals clearly defined, and so everyone knows what they're working on and what the commitment is. Is it something that needs 10 hours a week, and is that something someone can give? Or is it something that can be done in chunks of times that if someone just designs themselves over a period of 2 weeks? Just really look at the goals and then what is realistic in terms of achieving them. And then we always have to be the devil's advocate. What are unexpected obstacles that we can anticipate, and build those in, make time for them. And Tor has already mentioned that we want to respect our team members' time and what they can commit as we're planning. So as you're planning for projects, make sure that you know what people can give and you ask them about it, and so that you don't overload them and that you also don't underutilize people who might be willing to do something. So ask them again if what they can participate with and how much they can give. And then, we'd already talked about timelines and events. So not just look at your club, but also look at the district calendars, look at anything else that people can do. And if it's a fundraising event, you will also look at calendars of your community. If you plan an event, what else is happening in the community around that time? And how does your event go with those other happenings? Because if you want to maximize the attendance of an event and minimize conflicts, it's where you put your event in a time that works well for your community, your club, and then your success is maximized too. Another part of prioritizing, planning timelines is when you have fundraising events. Visualize the event from the start to the end. Just really think about, if someone comes in, what happens to them, where do they check in, where do they put the code, what else do they do when they come, so you can plan for any part of that event. And then as you're doing that, you just have to think about all the little details. And most of us don't have to invent an event. Someone's done it before, we've already got notes for it. But as you look at it, you then can make lists, you can do timelines, you can just put things into weeks, you can make deadlines for things that are dependent on each other. And as you have those tasks and items identified, then you can do your full timeline, and then you can look at what resources you need at what time in that planning. And another aspect of event planning, sometimes if you want donations, say for a silent auction or for food, ask for them early. The earlier you ask, the more you have a chance to go somewhere else if someone says no, and then you will achieve your goal of getting everything on time, rather than if you ask for everything in the last few weeks, and if someone is no, then you're stumped. So search for those things over time for several months. And as we finish on priorities and timelines, think about what your club's old priorities are. They are there, and all of us learn about club priorities as we join a club. We learn about them both explicitly because someone tells us, or implicitly by how people focus their time. Are those still the right priorities for the goals that the club has? Should we change? Should we rearrange? Is it okay to check in and ask the club, what changes should be made? And the same in our yearly fundraising events. It's good to keep them fresh. Yes, we want to do the things that work well, but also think about new things. And that's where we talk about that later in our leadership workshop. Exciting new ideas often come with new members as well. So listen to new members, get those fresh ideas, those exciting ideas, because if you have excitement and if you change things up, people come back for the new things as well as what they already know works really well. So together, that will give you a good planning for a fundraising event that then goes off really well. I think that is my section. Yeah.
Do you mind if I add in a couple extra thoughts before we go on to the next section?
Yeah. I'll just stop sharing and we can have a bit of conversation about prioritizing and timelines. So any other things that people use to plan? This is just one tool, but Debbie, get started.
I had a couple things to share from the perspective of being a leader, whether you're in a club level in Altrusa or in some other arena of your life. And back early on in this, Bettina was talking about respecting people's time. And I've worked with some people who say, I need such and such done, and can you get it finished in the next 2 weeks or month or whatever? And then that gives you an opportunity to think about your own schedule and your own skill set and say, yes, I can do that, or actually, no, I can't. But I've also worked with some people who literally one person called me up and said, can you have this done by tomorrow? And I'm like, by tomorrow? I have things going on today and tonight, and that's not realistic. And I think that goes back to what Bettina was talking about in terms of respecting people and their other commitments and their time. And you will have more success as a leader if you plan in advance, if you calendar things out, if you contact people in advance to say, can you do this? Are you willing to do this? Can you meet my deadline? Being specific about what you need, and then allow them to respond to you, yes, I can, or no, I can't. And tying into that in a little bit of a different angle is when I became governor, I have a bunch of different people on my team. Some are older members and some are young members. And what I didn't appreciate at the start of my governorship as much as I appreciate now is that people really do things in very different ways, on very different timelines, using very different resources. And as a leader, you have to adapt to that. So as an example, my communications committee has intentionally 3 or more actually quite young members, and they don't check emails very much. They can, but they are overwhelmed with emails all the day. They're busy working. They're all full-time working. And so they don't get around to checking their emails as often. I check my emails multiple times a day, but that's my generation and my habit. And so I had to learn in not getting email responses from them and checking in, okay, did you get that email? And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't check my emails. Can you text me? I'm like, okay. So I had to adapt my style for that group, that particular committee of my leadership team. And I text them now and say, I just emailed your committee. Can you check it sometime? And they do, and they get back to me right away. And likewise, I tasked them with a particular thing and I didn't hear any feedback back. And so again, as a leader, I'm like, are they working on it? Are they not working on it? I have no idea. It's getting closer. And so I texted the chair and said, how's it going? And she said, oh, it's going great. We'll have it done in the next couple days. I'm like, okay, I hadn't heard anything back. So communication is different between different age groups and between different people of different habits. And when you're a leader, whether it's of a committee or a club or a district or whatever, you have to learn to take people where they are and give them the opportunity to succeed and potentially change how you do business a little bit so that they can do things the way they need to. Because in every instance, my people have come through totally with what they needed to do, but they've done it in different ways, sometimes ways different than how I would have done it, or thought of doing it. But that's part of the power of letting people have responsibility and giving them the grace to do it. And so I wanted to make that message. And the one other thing I wanted to add in is, as an example, using the Hermiston Club again, 2 years ago, maybe, they were very small, trying to do things differently. And they decided to, instead of having just a daytime meeting, because working people couldn't make their daytime meeting, they decided to offer a once a month daytime meeting and a once a month evening meeting. And there was some resistance to that because daytime people didn't want to meet in the evening and vice versa. And so they used an approach saying, let's just try it for 3 months. If it doesn't work, we can go back to what we were doing. And that's another one of those things that's a strategy that you can use. And they did try it for 3 months. They didn't gain too many extra people coming to the evening meeting. So the club discussed again, and they voted to drop the evening meetings and go back to just their daytime one. And so you have to allow for failure along the way in the plans you make, because sometimes, again, you come out stronger. Just wanted to share those things.
Yeah. Thanks, Debbie. And I definitely think, longer timelines are good. For people like work full time like me, I don't check my email during the day, and after an 11-hour day, I generally don't want to do, another hour or two at night. So I do a lot of my work on the weekends. So if you ask me on Monday to do something by Wednesday, I'm like, really? That's sort of, I can't do that. If it's not urgent, I don't want to do that. If it can be planned, if it's urgent, yes, but if it's only important and you just didn't ask me early enough, I'd rather not. So be mindful that people have their own lives. So probably as a volunteer organization, giving people longer time frames, if you can, if it's important, then do that. Tammy.
I would like to speak to Bettina's suggestion that you visualize your event from start to finish and that you anticipate possible obstacles. And I will quote a man by the name of Gordon Graham. He is a risk management expert in the field of public safety. He has a JD and he worked for the California Highway Patrol for many, many years, most of his career. He has his own private company now. He specializes in public safety. But he says, if it's predictable, it's preventable. And it's just mind-blowing.
That's
in
great.
terms of just take the time to visualize what could go wrong. Because if you can think about the possibility of it going wrong, then it might, and then you have to deal with the aftermath versus predicting that possibility and then planning for it. So that
Thanks,
was
Tammy. Yeah.
2 cents.
Any other priority setting time frame ideas that you've used or that have worked or not worked so well? You can just unmute yourself or you can raise your hand. No, it sounds like there's some ideas to use, and I think now it goes over to Tammy, and she'll be leading the next section. I'll share again, Tammy, and
Okay.
you can tell me when I need to go forward.
Okie doke.
Yeah.
I just saw a meme on Facebook about, does anybody use Okie doke anymore? And I'm like, yep. Yes, I do. Okay, let's talk about delegating responsibility. And so on the next slide, it just simply says delegate, delegate, and delegate. So I would like to, at this point, just open it up to the group to ask for your opinions about why delegating is a good thing.
Because you can't do it all
You
as
can't do
much
it all.
as you would like.
And we talked about earlier that Altruisans will help everybody and will help us. So what are the other advantages of delegating?
It helps them learn and grow.
Okay. Helps people learn and grow. Good.
And the more people are involved, the more they feel like they belong.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay.
It helps develop your successor.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Good one, Diane.
You get to share their joy when they're successful.
Ah, I love that.
Oh,
Share the joy.
yep. That's a good one, Nance.
Yeah.
I'm known as the delegator.
Good. Yeah. As a trainer, I've never, ever, ever felt more proud as a 911 dispatcher than when one of my trainee dispatchers got to be better at the job than I was. You know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next slide and we will get a little definition of what it is. Providing assignment of responsibility, it's a assignment of opportunity is how I would phrase that one, to another person to carry out something specific. It's a shift from a decision-making authority to bounce amongst others. It isn't necessarily about distributing the tasks, but approaching your club culture so that, as you've mentioned when we talked about it just a moment ago, members are feeling empowered. And that can have a ripple effect. And we all know things are contagious. If it's negative, it can be contagious. If it's positive, it can be contagious. So we want to build our culture where our members feel empowered and the contagion is positive. So let's go to the next slide, please. So there's benefits for the people that we delegate to, and there's benefits for you as the leader. It does allow you to then focus on the higher priority tasks, going back to that matrix that we looked at, that if you need to take care of some very, very important high priority tasks, if you delegate other tasks to others, then you can manage your skills and the skills of the team in the future to accomplish everything in an overall way, which increases the trust. For them, we get the things that you mentioned. They feel empowered. Their skills are enhanced. Their knowledge evolves. And then they are more inclined to participate and have a greater sense of achievement and confidence for a cohesive unit. All right, next slide, please, Bettina. So if you look at this, chart, you hit on some of these. Integrating our leaders through delegation allows us to increase the productivity. It's like many hands make for lighter work, right? Instead of one person trying to do it all. We're developing skills. The productivity should go up. Building trust in any organization, in any group, in any family, in any place where more than one person more than two people are together. Trust is a huge thing. And where do we get the ideas? I'm not certainly going to be able to think of everything, but by bringing together everyone who has a brain, we get to encourage that innovation, and then ultimately it will boost the morale. Next slide, please. So, how do we delegate effectively? So, I think we use some of the things we've talked about already, prioritizing, the tasks that need to be done, whether they're urgent, important, non-urgent, non-important, but we need to focus on what we need to do and what we're going to assign to our members. So be open, communicate. Debbie mentioned, communication is key. What are the deadlines? What are the instructions? What's the context? And that doesn't mean that, okay, I've delegated, I'm done now. It's just going to happen. We want to check on progress periodically and give feedback and ask for feedback to address things early on. Draw on the members' talents and expertise. Who's best equipped to handle a skill? If we have to do anything at all that involves being artsy, I'm going to delegate the heck out of that, because I wouldn't be able to get third place in a first grade art contest myself. I love it, love to paint, have lots of fun, but you don't want me trying to do that particular type of a thing. So draw on those talents. Assign the tasks to those who are best equipped, who have the passion, who have the time to carry out what it is. And then don't make assumptions. Assumptions are dangerous. Ask questions. They may want to focus on something else in another area. Help build new skills. I could maybe develop some artsy craftsy skills, but it's going to take some practice, patience, and work from anyone that's going to help me with that. But that doesn't mean I don't want to try. So give your team members the opportunity to build new skills. If it's something that requires some kind of experience, then maybe you take someone that has experience in that area and you pair them with someone who would like to learn more. And then you have a team working on your delegation. I am a product of this last bullet point. Is it just easier? I can just do it myself. I can do it faster. I can get it done. I can take care of it. And I have to sit on my hands and zip my lip and sit back and let the baby bird learn how to fly on their own sometimes, with me there to catch them. So let's go to the next slide, please. Focus on what the objective is, not the process. I used to tell my dispatch trainees, we need to get from point A to point B. We need to get an ambulance to that address. Now, there might be more than one way to get from point A to point B. So how you do it, I'm not concerned with. What I'm concerned with is that we do get that ambulance to that location and on the road within 30 seconds. That's the objective. But there's some fluidity and some flexibility in how tasks can be accomplished, which allows them to be creative, allows them to use their critical thinking skills and their problem solving skills to meet the objective. And then again, don't disappear. Get the feedback, offer the feedback without micromanaging. And that's a balance. You know, it's easier said than done, especially if you want to do it yourself. You have to just sit back on your hands and provide the guidance as needed. Next slide, please. Match the skills and the attributes to the chore or the task. So how do we go about doing that? Any thoughts on how you get to know your members, your volunteers?
I think it's through those casual conversations that we have and understanding them on a personal level, and what skills, if they're an artist, or if they're, a organizer in their business or where they work, you tend to get their characteristics and attributes.
Absolutely. And Tor mentioned early on, 2 truths and a lie. You know, what a fun way to get to know people. In our Albany Club and many clubs at the meetings, there is a question of the day. And it can be anything. Last night in Albany, it was, what kind of a book would you write if you were to write a book? And that can be very, very telling about an individual. You could even do a survey. I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
I was going to say, Tammy, we do the same thing in Hermiston when we have our meetings. We always celebrate whatever national day it is. And last week it was bagels. So the question was, what do you like on your bagels? Well, that is a question you can answer. You can say, cream cheese, but 9 out of 10 times it devolves into more things about what you like about this. And it was so interesting this year. We do it throughout the year. And this year, for our Christmas party, when we did the gift exchange, it was all based on things that we gleaned throughout the year on how the gifts got rotated. I mean, and it was amazing
Yeah.
what we learned from each other just with that simple question.
Isn't that wonderful? I mean, it's just, if we really listen and you can learn so much. And I'll throw out another quote from John Wooden, former UCLA basketball coach: "Be quick, but don't hurry." I use it in the 911 world because if people are in a hurry, they're going to get sloppy and they might miss an address number and something gets messed up. So take an extra second to get it right. But just in life and just in communications, be quick if you need to, if time is an issue, but don't hurry. Take a moment to really stop and listen to what people are saying with the message of the day or the question of the day. That's one way. Tor mentioned just communications, one-on-one interactions with people. Ask them how they're doing. And don't be in such a hurry that you're just expecting them to say fine and then you move on. If someone says, "I'm kind of having a rough day," then stop and listen and say, "I'm sorry to hear that. Let's talk about it a little bit." You could do a simple survey. Find out from your members, what do you like to do, or what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I'm certainly not going to be on the design committee for anything that requires arts and crafts, but I'm really good with spreadsheets. I'm really good with organization. I'm very detail oriented. Ask some of those questions in a survey format, and then you can kind of get to know them in a way that would allow you to help match someone's skills to the task or the project that's needed. And once it starts, if something isn't working, have communication with them to ask, "Hey, is this working real well for you?" And they're like, "No, I hate it." Okay, well, let's find something else for you to focus on, and we'll get someone else to come in and help you with that spot. All right, next slide, please. So really, to wrap it up with delegation, don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Everyone wants to be on the team. Everyone wants to be a team player. It's helping find the niche. It's helping find, would it be easier to do some tasks on your own? Yeah, it might be, but is it more important to allow someone else to have that opportunity to take on that particular thing? And I just had a light bulb go off in my head, something else that we do in Albany, so I digress. Squirrel, is we pick out their little ducks, colored ducks, and there's ducks on the table, and then you pick out a duck from a bag and you have to go sit at a seat that matches the color of duck that is sitting at the tables. And it could be whatever you want. But the point is, you don't just go sit down with your best buddy. You are required to sit and intermingle and have conversations. And what a treasure that is to help get to know the people around you. And if you're going to be in a leadership position, then you might remember having a conversation with somebody who said, "You know what? I really like to do whatever it is." So don't be afraid to delegate. Sit on your hands if you need to. All of the things. Anyway, so here's another good quote. The secret of success lies not in doing your own work, but in recognizing the right person to do it. And that's also being aware of, might be the right person, but it might be the wrong time. So be cognizant of some of those things as well, because sometimes people are going to try to just, I will be tough, I'll be strong, and I will do everything I need to do. But maybe there's something going on that makes the timing not just perfect, and they don't want to let you down. So be open to having those conversations, and praise. Sometimes people just want to know that somebody gives a damn. And so just remember to say so once in a while.
Great.
Can I
Thanks,
jump in
Tammy.
again with an extra comment? It ties into what Tammy was just talking about too. especially when we have new members come into our club or come onto a committee. It's really, really important to make sure we include delegating to them. Sometimes we figure they don't know what they're doing or they don't understand Altrusa yet, but we all had lives in other places before we came Altrusans. We all have skill sets. And we can lose new members if we don't engage them right away. And so if we've done things a certain way and a new person or any member is on a committee or in our club suggesting something, don't say, oh, it works just fine and we do it this way. Be open to trying something new. If it works better, you're better off. If it doesn't work as well, you can go back to what you were doing. But it's so important to, as Tammy's been talking about, delegate things to other people, let them give it a try, see where it takes you, and make changes if you need to, and keep those members involved and not just written off because they can't ever contribute.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie.
May I say something, Tammy?
Yes, we've got a couple of you. Dina, go.
Please. And I'm not bragging, and I'm the president of the Albany, Oregon Club of District 12. Tammy is one of my dual members. Excellent presentation. You wrote that about me. I've been volunteering for many, 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 many moons. I became president about 20 months ago for my Albany club, and we were a struggling club. One of my biggest things in my entire life has been to delegate. You know, it's like Tammy said, I can do something in 5 minutes and it's done. And it takes me 30 minutes to tell somebody else how to do it. But I have learned in the last 20 months to no longer do that and to learn to delegate. In the past, we've had micromanagement in our club. I wasn't sure what that meant. I had to ask Sarah, my parliamentarian and our past governor, what that meant. And she said, Dean, it's not you. I had a couple of incidents this past year where my committee chairs were in charge of certain events. And at one of them, people came to me and said, we have a problem. And I said, well, I will go talk to my committee chair who's in charge. They said, well, aren't you the president? I said, yes, I am. But this is not my event. I'm here as a member. I'm here as a volunteer. And they know if they need me to step up, if they can't handle it, that's good. They handled that. And one thing that I do in my club, which I think has been a huge impact to my club, is every month I recognize a volunteer in my club. I also recognize a volunteer of the year. And a few of my members are on this call and they will agree with me because sometimes I'm over appreciative, but the appreciation part, I'm telling you, the small thank you, the text message, I hug every one of my members when they leave my meetings. I make them text me when they get home from my meetings. I have my Mama Bear shirt on. I'm like a big Mama Bear to my club. So it's those little things that people don't really think about that really mean a lot. You know, people are great to, okay, you messed up, you did wrong, but they're short of saying, you know, hey, good job, pat on the back or whatever. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Dean. And there was someone else that spoke up and I didn't catch who it was.
I had a question.
Thank you.
So I'm in talking about delegation, and I'm all about delegating. And in my career world, delegating, setting expectations, checking in, all of that is really good. Where I tend to struggle then is when I'm delegating, checking in, and then the person I've delegated to is not meeting expectations, meaning, oh yeah, I'll get that done. I'll get that done. I'll get that done. And months and months are now going by and that is not happening. I would love to hear from you all what strategies you have done to help that person come along in a way that is not seen as confrontational, that is accepted, that is helping that person go forward without what I tend to do is, okay, well, let me then do it. Because otherwise it's not going to get done if I don't step in and then sort of railroad over somebody, which I don't want to do. But I feel like otherwise it's not going to get done. So would love to hear what y'all are thinking.
What about asking for a timeline?
Well, I've
what's
given
your
timelines.
timelining?
Yeah. I
But
mean, I've
what's
said,
their
okay, can I
timeline?
have it next month? I'll have it for you. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll have it for you next month. And then the box, oh, whoops, I forgot the box at home. Gee whiz. Oh, I'll have it next month. Next month comes and goes, and that box is still not there. And we are now 6 months overdue on something that was supposed to be done.
How about reminding before the overdue part comes that, hey, we're approaching the deadline. Would you like some help? Is there another team member that we could have help you with this so that we can make sure we aren't overdue? Those are difficult conversations sometimes, and you're right. It's
Yeah.
we don't want to come off as confrontational,
Mhm.
but that's where the setting the clear expectations, which we talked about earlier tonight, is what are the objectives? What are the expectations? And then at some point, ask them, what can I do to help you so that we can meet this deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I've said, help me understand, help me understand what it is that is the barrier here. And the barrier is, well, I just don't get into town much. Can I come to your house? Well, I don't want to bother you. Well, it's not a bother. I would rather come to your house and get whatever it is that's needed than be 6 months out. Oh, well, that's okay. I'm going to be there next week. Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you will be at the meeting next week and you will bring the documents with you. Yes, absolutely. I'll be there next week. Next week comes, she's not there. And here I am. So it's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And, yeah,
Grace,
I
that's
don't,
really
yeah.
frustrating, and I feel like Tammy had some suggestions there. And it sounds like you've been clear with your expectations and timelines and task up front, and you can absolutely check back, in 2 weeks, whatever, next week, whatever, in 2 days, whatever. The other thing is that there are some people that are unreliable. And at a certain point as a leader, you may need to shift gears and say, I'm sorry, we have talked about this for, by the sound of it, for your particular example, months, and it's not happening. And I need to take this back over and find someone else that can do it because you've had a lot of opportunity. And that's not, that's a very end point kind of a thing, because it's good to give people opportunities. But the other thing is that people do have to be responsible and step up if they've agreed to do something. And in that instance, whatever the extra circumstances are, it may be that you just need to be blunt and say, either I need you to do this or I need it back to hand off to someone else.
There comes a point in time where Debbie's right. You have to move on and you have to do it. And then perhaps using the matrix that Bettina was talking about earlier, help promote the success by means of delegation of another task that doesn't fall into an urgent timeline or of higher importance, but still is something that can help them grow or continue to show that they're just not reliable. And then you can make decisions from there about what and if you delegate a task again.
Because I think when you do that, you start micromanaging, which you don't like.
Right.
We all don't like micromanaging. So I think undelegating, I would call it undelegating.
Undelegating, yeah.
Is helpful to all of you, because I don't think the person feels good about it either. I think
No, and
I
I'm
found in
sure she
myself,
does.
I've given
Yeah.
people too many chances. And in hindsight, I thought, oh, I should have just cut this off after the third time, because clearly it was not something that was important to them. It's not something that they had a buy-in. So I think, yeah, undelegating sometimes, because micromanaging, I think, upsets us as leaders who want to delegate, and it holds us back. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Is this just one individual or a committee overall in general, or just one person?
It's one person.
Okay.
Who had a particular role in a committee.
Are there others in that committee that can take over that role?
She has documents.
Oh, okay.
That's sort of holding everything up.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
I will say, Therese, this is a different kind of example to your situation. But in a number of years ago in Altrusa, I had a person that was not following through and not following through. And she is very involved in a whole bunch of things, like many of us are. And excuse me, she just wasn't coming through. And I met privately with her and said, look, I need you to do this. You chose to do it. You were elected to do it. But if your situation has changed and you can no longer do it, I'm going to ask you to step down because it does have to be done. And so either you step up and fulfill what you wanted to do, or just let us know that you can't anymore so that we can pass it off. And it was so shocking to her for me to be that blunt with her, nice, kind, respectful, but blunt, that she all of a sudden kicked into high gear for the rest of the year and she was on it. And I don't know what had been going on before. She didn't say, but she came through and she finished out great. And so, that's another option to keep in mind sometimes, just to put that out there. If your situation's changed and you can't do it, just let me know and I'll find someone else. Otherwise, you got to do it.
Sometimes we are our own worst enemy and we put blinders on and we're not even aware that that there's an issue because we're trying to have that stiff upper lip and manage and handle and put on the game face. And it isn't until maybe they're at home that they're feeling overwhelmed, but pride is not allowing them to either admit it or even see it. And it sounds like in Debbie's situation, either they didn't know or they went, oh crap, they're seeing that I'm overwhelmed. I either need to get off the pot or do my business. And it sounds like she did her business.
And I think that there's a couple roles in leadership in Altrusa that are extremely important because they interact with state agencies or banks, and that's the treasurer and that's the secretary. And those are two roles that have a very big timeline piece that you need to, if somebody sends you a check, those checks need to get into the bank ASAP. If there's reports to the federal government or the state agency in regards to your club and its filing, those are not something to take lightly because it can affect your entire club. So I think those two roles, there has to be some real clear deadlines and follow up with people just so things do not fall through the crack.
Good point.
I also find that sometimes when I talk about priorities, sometimes people don't hear exactly what I think I said. I think I made it really clear that, say, like in my work, the front lobby is always tidy, but people don't see it as important as I see it. So when I go in there, and something's on the ground, I pick it up, but my staff, okay, it's just, it's okay. So I think sometimes
What does
our
tidy
communication
mean?
doesn't connect. What I think I said they didn't hear. And so I found myself there having to say it a different way, or just saying, accepting that what I said might not have been heard the way I meant it. Especially with priorities, like big priorities. Say, this is really not negotiable. This is important. This is critical. Yeah.
Excellent feedback, everyone. Thank you very much. I think we're throwing it back to the floor to do the next segment.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more share screen. Yep.
We're going to talk now about running an effective meeting. And there's three components to running a meeting. There's preparing before the meeting, there's facilitating during, and there's the follow-up after. So in preparing your meeting ahead of time, it's making sure that you have an agenda and it's well-defined, and the details that you need to discuss during that meeting, and maybe allocating time if you know that there's going to be some discussion around a particular thing. and making sure that it's concise enough that you're going to meet all your goals and deadlines during that meeting. There's making the necessary arrangements. If you're going to a rented room, making sure things are set up ahead of time. If you need technical equipment or um, Wi-Fi, visual aids, that you're well prepared for that. And then to review your agenda specific before the meeting and having all of the things in place and all your materials. And also before the week before, mailing the agenda and the supporting materials in advance so people can familiarize themselves with it. Next slide. So during the meeting, the facilitating, supporting the decision making. And the goal of most meetings is to agree on topics presented in the meeting and making sure that everybody clearly understands what they are and how they're settled. Creating a safe space for people to collaborate, which helps supporting that decision making. And, you know, we all have different opinions. So it's good to be able to share those ideas, and you know, we may not always agree, but what does the majority decide upon? Sorry, I think I skipped.
Do you want to go there?
So throughout the meeting, there are key points to consider as the chairperson: the communication, making sure necessary introductions apply to the agenda if you have a particular person coming, informing all the committee members of the guidelines and monitor throughout the meeting, and maintain control of that. You know, sometimes we can get off and into a tangent of something, and make sure you bring it back to the point so that you can come to your decision, or at least what you plan to do in the future. And this is where Robert's Rules of Orders comes in, and you know, familiarize yourself with the basics of that, and you can see that on the district website. And handling distractions promptly. You know, asking people to stay on point, um, stay focused on what we're doing, and move forward. And make sure you have a start and an end to your meeting on time. Be respectful of people's time. I I sometimes get very frustrated when somebody tells me, "Oh, well, the meeting's going to be from 7 to 8:30, and at 8:15 we've only gotten to the first um, quarter of it because people have been talking unnecessarily, and then the unnecessary chatter and side conversations go on, and we get way late in the whole thing." Um, and then you can skip over to the next one. Following up after the meeting. I have found, I am the secretary of our district foundation, and in our last couple meetings, I have used AI for recording the meeting, and it gives you a really good summary with all your points. It lists everybody who's present and what you have discussed, and then what the action points afterwards are. And then it also gives you in transcript form so that you know at 8:24 p.m. I said this, da 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 da. And so there's a real clear record of that, and it really saves you a lot of time and effort, so you're not having to go back and listen to the recording, make your notes, and type them up and send them out. And you know, find out, go back and look at the meeting. What was successful during that meeting, and what could you improve to make it run efficiently? And the final note is to make effective use of everybody's time, skills, and contributions. Volunteers' time is valuable. It's our biggest asset that we have. Every volunteer has limited amount of time that they're willing to donate to your committee, so don't waste it. And a quote from Maya Angelou is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And make sure that you appreciate them, their skills, and their time that they have given to the committee and to the club. Anybody have any questions?
I'd like to know how you use AI to record your minutes.
Yes.
You know, there's an app called Wave AI, and literally it's so easy to use.
Is it
And you,
WAVE?
yep,
Or I'll also say, at Mary Alice, if you use Zoom, there is now a box you can check before you start your Zoom meeting to have an AI recording and transcript, and it will automatically take notes and feature. Yeah, and that's pretty new, like in the past couple months. And I've just used it 2 or 3 times recently, and it works really well. So that is now a Zoom feature as well if you use Zoom.
It's called the AI companion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tor,
This
if I
is all
may,
amazing.
Tor, may I?
yes.
Just a personal suggestion. My club, which I hope most clubs do have, we have a parliamentarian. And I am very, very fortunate for my parliamentarian. It was appointed by myself as president. She is our District 12 past governor. And I didn't know until I became president a year ago that if things go wrong, that's her responsibility. And I am all about Robert's Rule of Orders, thanks to Governor McBee. That was never with my club prior to me becoming president as well. And like Tammy said earlier, I make my members, I don't, my membership chair does. I have 2 co-chairs. JJ is on my call and Terry's out of town right now, but my co-membership chairs, like Tammy said, you get a duck, you sit here. I've changed that because it was this little clique for years and years and years. So only myself and my parliamentarian sit together. And my secretary, who's also on this call right now, those are assigned seats. I will be honest, I have come home sometimes with bruised ankles because Sarah has kicked me and said, Dean, you're going over, and kept me in line. If you can get a parliamentarian, I highly, highly, highly suggest that. It's phenomenal. And again, like I said, my secretary is on this call right now. I used to take notes. I used to write things down. The last 20 months, I don't write things down. I have a phenomenal secretary. By the time I get home from my meeting, which is about a 3-minute drive, I have an email and there are my meetings minutes, which immediately goes out to my club. And then when I do my agenda, sometimes I'm a little bit late. Sorry, secretary who's on this call. I get in trouble with my principal because she's a school teacher. I always attach my agenda and again, my last month's minutes for approval. Plus I have copies at my meetings. But no, I'm serious. Having a parliamentarian is a huge difference because you're not the bad person.
That does help make you have a more effective meeting. So good tip, Dina.
And parliamentarians are not bad people either.
That's right. They're great.
We are good people.
BRR
Yes, they are. I love mine.
Hi, can I ask for suggestions on how you would handle disruption, or like when people are having a discussion and they're concerned and they're all trying to express their concern, but you're also trying to keep things timely. Does anybody have any good suggestions on how to handle that kind of a situation?
Again, Robert's Rule of Order
Parliamentary procedure helps.
and parliamentary procedures. Yes.
So using parliamentary procedure helps if you have a parliamentarian. If not, the president can use parliamentary procedure and just say a timeout you know, everyone's opinion is really important and we want to have one person speak at a time. We all want to hear what everyone has to say. And you also want to limit time because that is also parliamentary procedure.
Yep.
2 minutes. Each person gets to talk for 2 minutes. And each person can only talk once before everybody else that wants to talk has a chance to talk. Everybody gets a chance before another person can talk again.
And the human brain functions better with the stuff that we know, the automatic stuff. So what Dina has done on the agenda is Robert's Rules of Order is a line item at the beginning of every meeting. It's there visually. It's there for her to say, okay, don't forget, we're going to follow Robert's rules. Doesn't mean that we don't get some distractions, but it doesn't take very long to get the distractions kind of squelched at that point, whether it's just a ding, ding, ding on a glass of ice water. People are like, oh yeah, sorry, I digress. But just that reinforcement, visually on the agenda, and then the reminder at the beginning of the meeting that we will be following Robert's Rules of Order seems to have helped a great deal.
Yeah, if you have it right on the top of your agenda, right after, yeah.
You know, Pendleton had a meeting not too long ago where we had kind of a controversial subject, and our president, and we use a microphone for our meetings, and the president said right up front, she said, if you are not holding the microphone, you cannot talk. And so everybody really respected that, and probably not everybody uses a microphone, but you could use a baton or something and say, if you are holding the baton, you get to talk. Otherwise, you do not get to talk.
Yes. Like a talking stick, you could use a talking stick. Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly.
Talking stick.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes, even while you have that going on, I'm sure none of you have had this happen, but sidebar conversations, you'll have a mic going on, you'll have a baton or whatever, and then you have this pss, pss, pss going on, right? And so it is really also helpful to say, don't call people out. I try really hard not to call people out, but I'll go, hey, let's pause and have a reminder that we are respectful of everyone's conversations. We are following Robert's rules. We need to listen with our ears to whomever has the floor at the moment and refrain from sidebar conversations. So we don't call people out because that's embarrassing, but we do remind people about sidebar conversations as well.
Lynn, you had a question?
Well, we had a real problem in our club. We got so many new members and it was chit chat, and it was really frustrating. And I brought it up at a president's council. Anyways, so what I did, we do our board meeting and then we follow with our business meeting. Unlike some clubs do them 2 different nights. So while the board meeting's going on, the lobby is opened up and we tell people, come chit chat, be friendly, do whatever you want out there while the board meeting's going on. You're welcome to come into the board meeting, but you come in quietly. And we explained, we just couldn't get through the meeting. It is like 100% improved. Once in a while, a little bit of chit chat, we just quiet, we just stop what we're saying. We got ladies and they stop. And it doesn't happen more than once or twice in a meeting now. It's been amazing just explaining to them how hard it was to run a meeting with everybody being so friendly. And, we love that they're friendly, but do that at the dinner meetings. And it's been good just being honest.
Have social time and then have business time. Yep.
Yeah, that's what we do too, Bettina. We have half an hour social time and then our business.
Yeah. Yeah, it was surprising
when you bring up a good good point of having control over running your meeting by whatever means, how you did it, how Treese does it, how whomever does it, of just stopping and calling people back to order in the right kind of way and not embarrassing anyone. If you do that a few times, people will realize they can't have sidebar conversations or whatever, and they will find out that you are a leader that does not allow that, and then they will start to like that it's an efficient meeting that starts and ends on time, and everyone gets to have their say. If you let that go on, then people realize that they can, and it snowballs and gets worse. So I do want to respect the end of our workshop timing here. I want to thank Bettina and Tor and Tammy for presenting tonight. You guys did an awesome job and I really appreciate it. And for everyone that joined in tonight, this was a critical topics, but on more of a baseline level, because we wanted to provide an opportunity of not having people feel like they were drowning in leadership information. There's thousands of books out there on leadership and, you know, week-long conferences and all this kind of stuff. And this is a 90-minute session. So this was somewhat superficial, but still with important topics. For example, in running an effective meeting, we did not get heavy into parliamentary procedure. However, if you want to continue learning more at the February 13th session, that does include some more specifics, a little bit deeper dive into parliamentary procedure. It also has, let's see, what have we got here? Inspiring others to help you achieve your goals, managing group dynamics, and then also the importance of recognizing contributions and the parliamentary procedure stuff. So we will go a little deeper, you know, some more details. Bettina already has that PowerPoint all done, and it's going to be a phenomenal presentation as well. And then our third session on March 13th builds, continues on in terms of more personal growth things. So each of these topics is a little bit different. For our District 12 members, I'm just going to screen share there for anyone that participated tonight, or anyone that goes and listens to the recording that we will get posted by tomorrow. And let me see here if this will work. We do have an opportunity to win a $100 Amazon gift card for each of our workshops in this leadership series. And so if you go to our District 12 website, this doesn't look pretty. I'm learning new technology all the time. We talked about that at the very beginning on learning different skills. So we worked out today this Leadership Essentials workshop. If you click on this link, it takes you to information about the gift shop, the gift card process. So this was the recording for tonight's workshop. I understand the very original flyer that went out a while ago and in our DSB in November actually had Bettina's link on there. We had to change that because she's not going to be around for the full series. So the most recent one that went out should have been the accurate link, but I understand there were some people using the old link, so I apologize for confusion on that. It is the same link from tonight for the next 2 sessions in February and March. But if you click on this Amazon gift card drawing for anyone that wants to do this, oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. If you click on, oh, here we go, register. If you click on this register button, then you put in 1. You don't have to pay for anything. It's just the process setup. Proceed to checkout. Put in your name, put in your email, and then there are a handful of questions here. What is the purpose of a team? This is specific to this session. What are 2 ways you can motivate or engage members? Why is delegation important? True or false? What's one thing you can do to run a more effective meeting? And what suggestion do you have for improving this particular workshop? And then you just hit place order. You're not really ordering anything. It's just our way that we can do this on Club Runner and submit that, and I will be able to access that. Anyone who does that by essentially the morning of January 25th that's a District 12, sorry for our non-District 12 attendees, but for any District 12 members, if you do that, then you're eligible for a $100 gift card, and the link is on the website there. That's on our homepage for that drawing, and we'll send reminders out too. Any questions about the prize, so to speak? Apart from what you learned, which is the real prize. The other thing is on the March, let's
13th.
see, 3rd or 29th. Okay, yeah, March 29th, the last Saturday of March date. We are also, from anyone that attended in person, all 3 sessions, we'll be drawing 3 names to win a 50% discount to our District 12 conference in May. So that's an awesome opportunity as well. So thank you all for being on. If anyone has any questions, feel free to stay on for an extra minute. For our Central and East Coasters that joined us, you guys are awesome. Thanks for joining District 12. We hope each of you learned something new tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was
Thanks for
excellent.
joining us.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you all.